Hey guys, welcome to the Rustic South. It's Sherry. Happy holidays, and let's get started because I am going to show you today three things I made for decorations for the holidays. Two are for trees, and one is wall art. So, first, I started out with these slats that came out of an old shuttered closet door that had broken. It fell and broke several of the slats out. So I decided that we could use these to make some Christmas decorations for the tree. If you guys leave trees up all year long, these would be perfect for that because these aren't necessarily holiday related. I do make a lot of things that are primitive, and these fall in that primitive kind of style because they're kind of dark, they're kind of rustic. They're not like reds and greens and pinks or things like that for any holiday colors. So I do just several different things with them. So here you see me out on the patio, just drilling holes in the end so that we can easily put string through them, yarn, old fabric, ripped fabric, tattered fabric. We like that kind of stuff. And then we need to sandpaper the ends because they're kind of rough. I took them and put them on my miter saw and cut the slats in half. I believe the slats are about a foot long. So each of these I think are 6.5 inches, if I remember correctly. So I cut, I think, 5 of them down, so it gave me 10 slats to use. So just sand them down real good, sand down the edges. Then maybe at this point, if you want to sand off some color, if you paint them a different color, or if you paint them. You could also use stir sticks for this, paint stir sticks. Any little pieces of wood, from your garage that you might have laying around. So here are the words that I printed out on my inkjet printer. Now, if you have an inkjet printer, fine. If you have a color printer, that's fine too. I don't have one right now that works, a color printer that is. So what I did was I mirrored the images, the words, so that they would print out, and we're going to do the Mod Podge effect with the phrases that I came up with, so that we can glue them onto the sticks that we just drilled holes in. So we're going to use Mod Podge to do this. So when you mirror them, because you're going to flip it over and it's going to now be upside down, that's why you have to mirror it, because if you don't, then it will definitely be upside down when you pull the paper off or when you peel the paper off. This is a very easy process. It just takes a little prep work, of course, because you have to, one thing, figure out what phrases or words you want to put on them. And then you have to, I did mine in Pages because I work on a MacBook, and which is not a big deal, but I did have to look up on the internet how to flip them on my computer, mirror them, that is. So that wasn't so hard to do once I found the right video. So I believe the phrases that I did were Silent Night, but coffee first. I think I did the word peace and joy. Then I did Merry Christmas. Then I also believe I did family. I did that out of using a permanent marker. And here you see me putting the word peace on there, placing them on there, hopefully with enough room. So you paint all of your sticks or your paper with your Mod Podge, and you flip it over and stick it on your object. Now you don't have to do it, of course, on these, but you could do them on large pieces of wood. So then we're going to paint the Mod Podge on the paper, and we're going to take it and flip it over and hopefully center it correctly between the hole that we drilled and the end of the stick. And you need to let these dry for a couple of hours. I would prefer you really do it overnight if you have time, if you have the patience. I believe I did it for at least a couple of hours because you really want it good and dry. Because if you don't, the letters will not stick as well. When you go to peel off the paper on the back side. So I'm just trimming the paper up because it needs to, it's kind of hard to see, of course, when you have to flip it upside down to make sure that you have it centered in the right place. And then if you have any letters that are kind of long, like the F's or J or G or something like that, that has a loop or something that might stick out, or a Y. So yeah, I try to trim it to the size so it's better to see where your placement is. This is another word that I did that when I typed it on the computer, I typed each letter and put 2 or 3 spaces between each letter so that it would have ample amount of space for me to cut apart and place on the stick. So just look on the internet. You can probably come up with some words, I'm sure, on your own. Merry Christmas, ho ho ho, several holiday type words, or if you want to use these for Valentine's Day, if you guys leave it, if you're like me, I leave a tree up all year round. I leave, I think, a couple of 3-foot trees up all year round that I decorate for different holidays. So here I have some embellishments that I'm going to put at the top. I drilled holes in these as well. These little stars came from Dollar Tree, if you guys have seen them there. So I took the burnt umber paint from Apple Barrel. I watered them down, watered the paint down. And I did both sides of the stars. I believe I did 5 stars, 5 or 6 stars. So I did both sides of the stars in a dark brown color. I prefer primitive colors, dark colors. Last year I didn't do such dark colors, but this year I seem to be trending more towards dark colors. And I know I've seen a lot of videos out this year with antiqued dark colored ornaments, and I really love those, and I want to make them. I just haven't got my decorations down from the attic yet. So we did those little stars. And of course, if you don't like antiqued or dark brown, you guys can do them white or red. You can sand them a little. So here I have some stamps. I showed you those little wood stamps. They come from Hobby Lobby. You guys have probably seen them before. Several people use them. So I think now I'm doing the word jolly, I think, on this one. And on the next one, I think I did ho ho ho. And I have my black ink pad as well. I love these little stamps. They're so handy to use either on fabric or on anything, right? They're just the perfect size for little things, not too little. These little stamps, the stamps themselves, they are 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch, which the letter probably themselves is only 1/4 of an inch wide. And depending how, what letter you're talking about, it could be anywhere from 1/4 to a 1/2 an inch high. So here I'm hand lettering the word family, and I'm mimicking the way the letters look on the little wooden blocks that I just used. So I really like the way they look. This one turned out okay. It's not my favorite. Eventually I decided to sand it because it's a little too dark with the black. So I sanded a little, then I'm like, decide if now it's too faded, you know how we are. Trying to make it perfect, right? Showing you it's a Sharpie permanent marker. I use a fairly uh, fine tip when I'm writing with markers. Now I'm putting twine through the tops of the hanging ornaments and wanting to put stars on the top of them. Some of them I put stars, some of them with twine, some of them I put rusty bells, um, fairly large rusty bells that you get at Hobby Lobby. I don't know if they have them this year. I haven't seen them. I haven't been in there much looking at their Christmas decorations this year. They've had them for several years in the past. And some of them I put an acorn. I found some like rustic acorns with some gold patina on them from Hobby Lobby. They're kind of large, so they're kind of hard to distinguish where you want to put them on or what if the ornament is big enough to put them on, because you can't put them on anything too small or they just look out of place. So there we did the jolly. Now I did make one there you see in the screen that had fabric on it, and I think I put the word winter on it with the stamps, and I was not happy with the way it looked. So that one kind of got remade at some point. I decided I didn't care for the look of that one. So what I did was I got out a napkin, which I believe I'll show you here shortly. What I did, I took out a napkin that had snowmen on it. Really cute. I had gotten it last year from, I believe, Home Goods. And I cut out a portion of it and glued it. So there's the acorn I was talking about. It's cute, but it's so big, and you have to decide, is it too big for this ornament? Is it gonna fit on here? Is it gonna look right? Is it gonna hang right? Anyway, so yeah, so the one I had put winter on, I ended up ripping the fabric off of it. On the fabric it looks okay, but then I started to put cinnamon on it to make it a little more primitive looking. I didn't like the way it looked. It just looked too dirty and not really the dirty that I like, or the primitive that I like. So I ended up ripping it off. it got transformed yet again. Now, then I decided, yeah, probably that acorn was too big. There's the rusty bell. So yeah, we decided to use the rusty bell here. I love these rusty bells. I'm sure if you don't have a Hobby Lobby near you, I'm sure you could probably find them on Amazon. I'll try to find a link for those on Amazon and attach. I put it down in the description box for you guys. So here's the one I was telling you about earlier that I had taken the word winter on the fabric that I had glued to it and peeled it off of there because it was not turning out the way I wanted it. So I took this napkin that I had gotten from Home Goods, I think it was last year. And they really have some cute snowman figures on it. So I thought it would be cute decoupaged on the top of it. It really turned out cuter than what I was originally doing with the fabric. So I enjoyed making that one quite a bit. So yeah, so put your Mod Podge down, put your napkin on top of it, and then trim it a little, and then get out your finger sander and sand off the edges so that it's not so perfect on the sides, right? Make it look a little more rustic, primitive. Or you can always tear it, right? Let it dry completely, or with the magic of a hairdryer. So there's the finger sander. We're sanding off the edges of it. A little stripe on the edge is cute, but the wood is not, the little plank is not big enough to leave anything extra on it. As you can tell, I barely got his face on there. Some of his nose was not able to stay, but you get the gist of what it is. So I end up putting some fabric bows on a couple of them, although I'm not much on bows too much. I did add them to the tops of a couple of them, if you can see from the original. From when the video started, I had a picture there of the ornaments. Okay, so now I'm going to show you, you guys have probably seen this if you watch YouTube videos a lot. You'll see some people doing this. So once you let it dry for a few hours and the ink has had a chance to stick to the Mod Podge that you have underneath it, what you do is you're now going to spray these with water, and you're going to rub ever so slightly. If you rub really hard, you will rub some of the ink off, and you may have to re-wet them a little more just to make the paper a little easier to come off, rub off. On a couple of them, I did have to go back and take my Sharpie permanent marker and fill the letters out a little bit on the ones that I rubbed a little too hard, because the paper wasn't coming off completely in some areas as much as I wanted it to. That's why you really need to let this set overnight and let it dry really well. I guess age, become more permanent. So here I'm rubbing it with a wet wipe a little bit to get some of that extra paper off that sticks along the top pretty well where the words are not. Now this one come off real well, but see, I really watered that one good with my spray bottle. So if you water them down really well and let it set for a few minutes before you start peeling off, it will peel off pretty well, but just play around with it if you've never done it before. It turns out pretty good. One good thing might have been too, I noticed on parts of those shutter that I used, that if I had put Mod Podge or even maybe a clear sealer over the top of the paint that was flaking, in some spots it didn't want to stick very well on the very end where there maybe is no paint, there's raw wood. It didn't want to stick real well to some of those areas. So you might want to take some Mod Podge and seal it first, and or put a coat of polyurethane or some sort of protectant over it. Maybe the paper will stick better. I've not tried it, so I'm not exactly sure. So this is the Oh Silent Night one that I did. I think that's the Oh Silent Night. Oh, I also did one that's Let It Snow. I forgot about that one. So I'll try to remember to link um, my Word document down in the description box when I'm complete here, so that you can have that if you wish to use those. But you will, of course, merely have to play around the sizing of them, because I don't know, what size you'll need for your project. Although it just takes a few minutes to go in and open a Word document and type some words. Now on this one I did have some problems with the Y coming off. If you can see there, it did peel off a lot of the Y, so I did have to go back in with my permanent marker to help fix that little situation going on. But it turned out okay. It turned out just fine. And then what I ended up doing on the very end, which I don't think I got video of, I ended up taking some white wax that I have that is, what is that, Waverly, and I put white wax over the top of these after I sealed it with some Mod Podge, because I wanted to kind of tone down the darkness just a little from the dark brown and the letters a little bit. So that's the end of those. And now we have project number 2 coming up, which this one is really easy, really simple. You know how Dollar Tree has those really pretty holiday bags at this time of year, right? They're so beautiful. I want to use them, but my kids like to still unwrap gifts. So, and I like to use them for wall decoration. I do use them some for gifts. But anyway, so I had this old clock sitting around that wants to work and it doesn't want to work. And of course, it's battery operated. And, it hangs on the wall for a while. And then all of a sudden we start to notice that it's not working. And then, you forget to take it down. so forth. It just becomes wall decoration, not really a clock anymore. So I decided this year I would take this bag and cut it out and put it on the front of that. I thought the colors of the bag went really well with the color of the clock frame, because it's kind of a creamy, dingy, creamy color. You know, and of course it's kind of rustic too because it's got rubbed off paint spots. So I made the indentation in one side of the bag, excuse me, in one side of the bag so I could cut a circle out of it. And so I trimmed that up to make it pretty close to the size that I needed for the clock face. Excuse me, guys. So what I decided to do now was take some of my distressed oxide and an old I forget what kind of brushes those are. It's very stiff bristled. It's typically for like pouncing paint with. So I used it on this to just lightly dinge up that gold color on there because it's a little too bright for me. I like it, but it's a little too brighter than I would most things in my house, you know. And here it doesn't look like the word wonderful actually dinged up really well, but the other words did not dinge up very well on screen here. Now you can see time. You can see it's being dinged up pretty well with that, but I was trying to tone it down a little. It's just a little too bright. Of course, I didn't wear gloves on this, and of course my fingers look like yellow and brown after I got done with it. You know, the life of a crafter. Hands never look 100% clean. At least I don't feel like it sometimes when you do a lot of painting and distressing on things. So I decided that this distress oxide was not going to totally make this gold as dingy as I was wanting it. So at some point here, I do get out my black ink pad to try to help with the distressing of it. Let me know what you guys think. Turned out good. All I did was use double-sided tape, stick tape on the back of it so that it would stick to the front of the glass. And here we have project number 3. These turn out so cute. You know, I originally got this idea from a birdhouse that I saw at Hobby Lobby 2 years ago. And I decided that it looked so easy to make. I came home and made one. And I decided this year that I would show you guys how I did it if you're interested. I used the Rust-Oleum white chalk paint in linen color to paint. I used toilet paper rolls, and you saw just some very, very lightweight cardboard for the bottom and for the roof of this birdhouse. Also for this birdhouse, you're going to need some pine cones. Or if you liked the idea of going a little, you know, whimsical, you could. I'm making 2 of these, so that's why I'm cutting 2. A little whimsical on these, or a little out of the box, I guess. Instead of using pine cones, because I did have to go buy them because I couldn't find any particularly laying around anywhere, and the ones I already had I did not want to tear apart. I did have to go buy a bag of them at Target. I believe they were $4. There are quite a few in there. There's probably 20 in there. but they smell absolutely scrumptious with cinnamon, if you like that. So now we're just painting the toilet paper roll after I cut the top part in the V on both sides so that you have somewhere to glue your roof to. So now we're painting, this is be the house portion of the birdhouse, and the circles that are laying on the map there are the bottom of the birdhouse. You know, I took that linen Rust-Oleum paint out of the can because the can was getting the top of it, you know, after you open them 50, 100 times and you get paint all over the top, they never want to close right. So I took it out and put it in an old candle jar, and it, you know, the rubber stopper on the side, so it helps. It's been used quite a bit since I originally got it. I am due for some more, I think it looks like. So here's where I'm decided I'm going to start peeling off the leaf, if you will, parts of the pine cone. And wow, those little parts on the end that have those points, ooh, they hurt. So be very careful when you're doing this because it is very pointy. And I did just get those miter shears for my birthday, so I was happy to get them. Although these needle pliers were working pretty well, but you know what I discovered after of course I did this on video, I took another pine cone and started taking them off of the bottom, and it worked. They came off much easier. When you get to the middle part is when it really becomes rough. So there you saw that I measured the house roof for you. It's 2¼ it's 2 inches wide by 2¾ inches long is the roof size for the paper. You're going to cut out squares now to make your roof tile, if you will. You know, you could even just take extra cardboard and make little tiles or make strips and cuts in them. Whatever you like to do. If you don't want to mess with pine cones, they were a little pointy, a little, you know, they were poking me. It wasn't exactly fun, but you know, you can live through it. But if you just can't find them, or if you don't know where to get any, or you don't want to go and buy them, you could come up with some other idea using cardboard. So yeah, so I'm measuring out 4 of these, 2 for each of the houses since I'm making 2 houses. And then I do paint them white, I believe, and glue them to the house after they're painted white and dried. Or before. We'll see. You can do it either way. It's whatever your fancy wishes. Okay, so here I'm doing it after I glue it on. And you just start the bottom row. I was trying to match up the sizes because I had cut one kind of thin and a couple of them kind of chunky. So, gotta get that glue stick in there. Glue gun was giving me a fit that day. Glue stick did not want to go in. It was unbelievable. Believe it or not, that's a fairly new glue gun, and it is a hot mess. So I glue it on both sides. Make sure they match up in the middle. Don't leave any gaps. And then you can start. Actually, I don't know if I paint them or not. Actually, I don't think I do paint them. We put so much stuff on top of it that I don't actually think that I do paint them. That's what I was looking at there to see if I had them too long. So I have to trim the sides a little bit, make sure they're even. You got to paint yourself a black, what looks like a hole for the bird to go in, of course, if this was a real house. and reinforce your roof a little bit if you need it. Then you're going to glue your bottom of your birdhouse onto the bottom. There, I do paint it. I don't really think it would matter if you did or not, because we're going to take spackle and put it all over the roof after you glue the pine cone pieces to it. You're going to take spackle and put it all over the roof, so it's not really going to be seen. Even if you don't paint the roof white, you really won't be able to see it. So when you go to start painting, start gluing on your pine cone pieces, you'll need your pine cone pieces and your spackle to put on as snow. So here I do end up painting the top and the bottom so that when it hangs, nobody can see that you used cardboard. And then when you get done letting it dry, of course, you need to get your pine cone pieces and put them in rows, starting on the bottom of the roof, and work your way up in rows. I think there's about 4 rows per side. And then add your spackle and let it dry for a couple hours and glue on your hanger, and you're done. Here's the final project. Oh, and I added moss. Thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed today's crafts. Please like and subscribe. Thank you. See you in the next one.